The global political stage is heating up as South Africa finds itself at the center of a major international standoff. The United States, under President Donald Trump, has imposed sanctions and frozen aid, accusing South Africa of implementing racist land expropriation laws. However, South Africa's government has strongly denied these claims, defending its land reform policies as a necessary step to correct historical injustices. As Washington takes a hardline stance, the European Union and China have stepped up, openly backing South Africa and reinforcing their diplomatic and economic ties. Could this be a turning point in global power dynamics? Will the US isolationist policies push South Africa further into the arms of China and the EU? Stay tuned as we break down this high-stakes geopolitical showdown. Before we dive in, be sure to subscribe to the African Web and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest updates. President Trump's latest executive order has sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles. By freezing US aid to South Africa, Trump has intensified tensions, claiming that the country's land reform policies unfairly target white farmers. South Africa's government, however, has dismissed these accusations, asserting that its policies aim to address land dispossession caused by apartheid and promote equitable land ownership. Washington's aggressive stance has only served to widen the gap between the US and its global allies. With Trump doubling down on his position, the US now risks further diplomatic isolation, potentially harming its influence in Africa. The situation escalated even further when US Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced he would boycott the upcoming G20 foreign ministers meeting in Johannesburg, citing South Africa's so-called anti-American policies and what he described as a failure to uphold property rights. Amid rising tensions, the European Union has firmly positioned itself as a key ally of South Africa, emphasizing its commitment to maintaining strong diplomatic and economic ties. European Council President Antonio Costa personally assured South African President Cyril Ramaphosa of the EU's continued support, reaffirming South Africa's role as a valued and dependable partner. He also highlighted the EU's recognition of South Africa's leadership within the G20 and its commitment to global cooperation through initiatives like the Pact for the Future. This show of support has been echoed by influential EU member states, including Germany, Italy, and France. Germany's ambassador to South Africa, Andries Peschke, underscored the shared values that bind the two nations, while Italy's representative, Alberto Vecchi, emphasized their mutual dedication to fairness and global justice. France's ambassador, David Martinin, reinforced their commitment to democratic principles and sustainable economic partnerships. Their collective stance strengthens South Africa's diplomatic standing despite increasing tensions with Washington. Beyond verbal assurances, the EU is taking concrete steps to deepen its engagement with South Africa. A high-level EU-South Africa meeting is set for March 13, reflecting Brussels' intent to expand both economic collaboration and political dialogue. This move signals not only the EU's political support, but also its readiness to enhance investment in the region, even as US-South Africa relations continue to deteriorate. As tensions between South Africa and the US escalate, China has stepped in to reinforce its alliance with Pretoria, further strengthening its economic and diplomatic ties. Chinese Ambassador Wu Peng revealed that trade between the two nations reached an impressive $52.5 billion in 2024, accounting for 18% of China's total trade with Africa. Notably, South Africa maintains a trade surplus of $8.83 billion, showcasing the deepening economic interdependence between the two countries. As the US imposes sanctions, China's expanding trade and investment in South Africa position Beijing as an increasingly vital economic partner. China's influence extends beyond economic cooperation. In a strong diplomatic gesture, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has confirmed his attendance at the upcoming G20 foreign ministers meeting in Johannesburg, signaling Beijing's unwavering commitment to supporting South Africa on the global stage. His presence is expected to further solidify China's role as a key geopolitical ally, particularly at a time when Washington is retreating. This growing alliance underscores a broader shift in global power dynamics. With China deepening its presence in Africa, South Africa is strategically aligning itself with Eastern partners, reducing its reliance on Western economic structures. Beijing's continued backing could significantly reshape South Africa's trade policies and international positioning, reinforcing a new era of multipolar global influence. Adding another layer of controversy, South African-born billionaire Elon Musk has publicly criticized his home country's Black Economic Empowerment (BE) laws, labeling them as openly racist ownership laws. Musk, a longtime critic of affirmative action policies, argued that the South African government is unfairly prioritizing race-based policies over merit-based economic development. His remarks have reignited debates over economic equity and racial justice, both in South Africa and internationally. South African leaders and civil rights organizations have strongly pushed back against Musk's claims, asserting that BE laws are necessary to correct deep-rooted economic disparities caused by apartheid-era land dispossession. They argue that without such policies, economic power would remain concentrated in the hands of a privileged few, preventing meaningful progress toward racial and financial equity. Musk's comments have also fueled discussions within US right-wing circles, where opposition to affirmative action remains a key talking point. Some American conservatives have embraced his stance, using it to criticize similar policies in the US. However, within South Africa, Musk's remarks have been widely rejected, with many viewing them as out of touch with the country's historical realities. His statements not only add fuel to an already tense diplomatic situation, but also highlight the broader ideological divide between Western and African approaches to economic reform. With the G20 foreign ministers meeting just around the corner, Washington's decision to boycott the summit could have lasting consequences. The absence of US representatives will not go unnoticed and could further alienate Washington from key global players. Meanwhile, the EU and China continue to strengthen their foothold in Africa, forging deeper alliances with South Africa. This growing divide highlights a shift in international relations. As the US retreats, China and the EU are positioning themselves as more reliable partners for African nations. The question remains, will this diplomatic standoff lead to a permanent fracture in US-South Africa relations? And could Washington's retreat create an opportunity for China and the EU to reshape global alliances? The dispute between the US and South Africa has sparked a larger conversation about sovereignty, economic justice, and global power dynamics. As the EU and China reaffirm their support for South Africa, the US faces increasing diplomatic isolation. With the upcoming G20 summit serving as a key battleground, the world is watching closely. What do you think? Will South Africa's strengthening ties with China and the EU lead to a permanent shift in global alliances? Should the US reconsider its hardline stance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more updates from the African web.